I bet you came here for the only game in town that has the guts to give you the full scoop of what happened yesterday, re Gladys Berejiklian. Well,
2 days ago now. This is coming out on Wednesday.
Which is my next point, and that is that I am extremely tired and barely know where I am. I was staying up all night watching ICAC, the most gripping television show of all time. A zoom camera from a really distant angle. Anyway, the point is, I'm very delirious. That's not a very good combination when you're talking about things that are very strictly legal. Let's plow ahead. Before we begin, a special thank you to you, the viewer, because I noticed that on a lot of mainstream media outlets' YouTube channels, with all of these talking heads saying, "Who could have guessed that Gladys Berejiklian would be involved in corrupt dealings?" The overwhelming response was, Petridge Farms remembers, aka Friendly Geordies remembers, aka do you remember the hashtag koala killer, because we've got a new hashtag now, Guilty Gladys. Do those massive points make sense? Disregard. All you need to know from that is, thank you. Now, listen to me brag. I went over straight to Parliament House. Friendly Geordies goes to our equivalent of Washington, the building with the pig out the front. Hey, at least we're honest in New South Wales. If you remember from a few weeks ago, Christo, who has been ominously referred to in the press as the gatekeeper. And ever since he appeared in that video, the gatekeeper has been kept out of the gate. He used to have a press pass at New South Wales Parliament. All of a sudden, it doesn't work. Bit of a coincidence there. They said it had something to do with COVID. I suspect it has something to do with the fact that he embarrassed one of the journos, and so they denied him access to Parliament, which is a huge breach of civil rights. So we will be investigating that. We will take it to the Press Council, where it'll inevitably be ignored. You scared? So we called up a couple of people we know in Parliament. Their overwhelming response was, no, I don't want negative articles written about me. Except, of course, the shooters, fishers and farmers who, just like me, revel in negative attention. Rocking up with their cowboy hats. G'day, Friendly Geordies. Heard you need an escort, mate. One of the most triumphant moments of my life. Dressed exactly how I'm dressed now. Kind of zoom down and look at how cheap these pants are. The elastic is wearing out. That was my debut into state. I'm still wearing the same clothes. I haven't slept. And I rock in with these 4 cowboys behind me. You go past all of the press officers. There's all these little cuck journalists that we've paid out over the years. I know, I just feel like sushi for luncheon. Me just walking past, doffing my invisible hat. Ma'am. It was beautiful. Going up to the next level, you walk past all of the offices of the Liberals. This is what you see. The first one, let me just go back. The Labor offices, nothing on the doors. You go past the Liberal offices, the first one, just all this paraphernalia on the front. Go the Sharkies! The next one, Trap 2020. And then the next one is just of some fat old guy with this face on his door. What I especially like is when we go to the shooters and fishers office, they go, "Oi, Geordies, check this out." They put the Greens offices next to One Nation. Dude, they have a sense of humour. We go in, Helen Dalton just exposes the game as always because she's no bullshit. She says it how she sees it. And all that she sees is what the rest of us fair dinkum Aussies see, which is that something dodgy's going on. Anyway, you can see the entire interview of that, links in the description. We will go back to the biggest bombshell of that at the end of this video. But let's delve into Gladys Berejiklian's performance at ICAC, which went for 5.5 hours, which I will empathise that is a really, really difficult position to be in for anyone else other than Gladys Berejiklian, sucked in. Credit to the lawyer who drilled her for a full school day, question after question, not a single smirk, even when Gladys was trying to give some of those chuckles of, we're all friends, aren't we? No, we're really not. The big takeaway from it, just in case you have, a job and you can't watch 6 hours of an ICAC hearing, I'll summarise it for you. Gladys Berejiklian has early onset dementia. She doesn't remember anything, apparently. I'm surprised she even remembers her lover's name. We just looked in the transcript for keywords like I don't recall, I don't remember, what does corruption mean? Hundreds of times. Ask any criminal lawyer. They will tell you that the first piece of advice they give to any client that is as guilty as sin, I don't remember anything. I just suddenly got amnesia by the bright lights in here. So let's give that the most charitable spin we can. If you don't remember that much about your own life, why should we trust you with an $85 billion a year budget? Worst case scenario, which I think we can all agree is the actual scenario, she was covering up her boyfriend's corruption as the premier, the head honch. Apparently, Mark Latham went through the code of conduct for ministers. He found 14 breaches. One of the primary breaches is that you have to declare the pecuniary interests of your partner. She did not do that. Just from that one little glaring fact alone, she has to step down. The fact that she's still there, I mean, I know this is what every opposition leader says, but she has to resign. Now, because this is Friendly Geordies and the channel should be renamed Schadenfreude are about journalists you don't know anything about, but you assume are annoying because they have very smug facial expressions in their profiles. Let's look at how the media is spinning this. Well, one element of the media, because if this has taught me anything, is that there is media diversity in this country. There's the Murdoch press that likes the dries in the Liberal Party, and Fairfax 9 that likes the wets in the Liberal Party. And therefore we have balance. Just for anyone who doesn't know, really the difference between the wets and the dry faction in the Liberal Party is that the wets, I think, just want more funding to the Opera House because they like watching plays. And the dries think you're going to hell if you don't have 6 kids. It is incredible that when journalists are allowed to do journalism, they do it. Sky News has been hitting all the right notes for 24 hours straight, highlighting just how bad this is. The only reason, of course, is because they want Gladys Berejiklian out, but the enemy of my enemy, and I do not regard Alan Jones as an enemy. I like him. He tells it like it is and has for 40 years. But that's what Sky News is doing, obviously, because there's a power struggle between the wets and the dries in the Liberal Party at the moment, and they sense weakness. Look, see, Samantha Maiden, News.com, proud Murdoch lackey. I can't believe that journalists are buying the bad boyfriend argument, given the phone tapes played to ICAC have the now Premier saying woo-hoo to a sitting MP disclosing that he's earning a commission on a property deal. But here we are. That's one side of the press. Obviously, it's politically motivated, but I'll take it because they are highlighting what needs to be highlighted, which is that Gladys Berejiklian is excusing corruption. Now let's look at the cuck faction of the press, whose bastion is 9 Fairfax, and their martyr is Emma Alberici, who stole some of Michael West's work and then watered it down heaps for an ABC audience, and then the ABC kicked them off because even that was too spicy for them, and now she is seen as the bastion of mainstream media. Well, let's see what her views on this are. No, this has nothing to do with the fact that I just had a Twitter spat with her. This is all just objective, as it always is. The press. Leaders of her caliber are not easily found. Malcolm Turnbull, quoting him like he's Nelson Mandela. How fitting is that? Emma Alberici, Malcolm Turnbull, Gladys Berejiklian, all patting each other on the back for, we all have extremely overinflated salaries for doing absolutely nothing. Well done. Is she the first woman to be let down by a guy? I don't think so. She's human. Emma Alberici adding, well said. Well said? Yeah, of course I'm not going to report my lover to ICAC. Haven't you seen Titanic? Our love is as true as that, except we're nowhere near as hot. Everyone that is part of that faction of the press that can be best summarised as, we like corruption just as much as Rupert Murdoch, but we like Alexander Hamilton more. Berejiklian is undoubtedly the most competent premier in the country. Yeah, the premier that at our last count had about $70 billion in infrastructure blowouts to projects that are designed to keep you in traffic and let the Ruby Princess ship into Sydney Harbour when we knew that it was riddled with COVID. I can't think of a single premier that is any more competent than that. What do they think? That Western Australia's succession campaign was successful? Her performance throughout COVID-19 has been widely lauded. Yeah, by you, not by experts. This is the narrative that they keep pushing throughout the entire monolith of 9 Fairfax. Look at what Peter Overton said, and it pains me to make fun of a man that is that old yet still that handsome, but here we go.
She has been courageous, tough, and has steered us through the hardest year of our times. But today, Premier Gladys Berejiklian was humiliated and embarrassed. embarrassed as her personal life came tumbling out in a way that shocked even her closest colleagues.
You see, this is the narrative they're trying to push. She is the best Premier New South Wales has ever had. Zero growth, zero complaints. But unfortunately, she had a bad boyfriend. Can't we all find it in our hearts to forgive that? No one cares about her personal life. Well, when I say that, I mean everyone does care about her personal life because it's a lot more saucier than we thought. I think Kyle Sandilands summarised it best when he said, "I thought she was a lesbian." I just want to be on the record and say I didn't think she was a lesbian. I thought she was asexual. But let's put aside scandalous affairs because, fun as they are, they don't really matter in the grand scheme of things when you have a premier whose boyfriend was telling her about his corrupt dealings and she said, quote,
"That's good. I don't need to know about that bit."
Her response to that was, "I was just bored by what he was saying." You can go back and listen to it right now. Does that sound like a bored person? Or does that sound like someone saying, "Shut the f*** up, you idiot, you're on a phone"? We'll be covering this more extensively because there is a lot more to cover extensively, especially after I've slept. But I do want to make this point. When I was talking to one of my normie friends about this, their take home from it, and obviously this is because this is all they glean from the press that they consume, their point was, Jodie McKay is trying to make a big deal out of Gladys Berejiklian's personal life. That's her business. Which is exactly what Gladys Berejiklian was saying in the ICAC hearing over and over again. So obviously the press picked up on that signal and said, okay, we'll just report exactly like that. Have I been a good boy? That's what their take home from it was. That's what the average person is thinking. But let's just contrast the integrity of Jodie McKay with Gladys Berejiklian. Jodie McKay was offered donations by mining magnate Nathan Tinkler in a way that probably couldn't be traced back during an election that she was almost certainly going to lose because Labor was extremely unpopular at that point. And he was saying, I will give you donations if you support this coal port that I want built. Jodie McKay looked at the proposal, said, no, this isn't economically or environmentally sustainable. There is a much better port that can be built for all kinds of commodities. I want to support that. You know what happened? Corrupt characters like Tripodi in her own party started campaigning against her in an election that she was almost certainly going to lose. So not only did she not get the donations, which didn't give her the edge on her opponents, but on top of that, she became an outcast in her own party. What did she do? She went to ICAC with the information. She paid a huge personal cost. She lost her seat, but she kept her integrity. Let's contrast that with what Gladys Berejiklian did.
That's good. I don't need to know about that bit.
Is there anything else to say? Who would you rather running the state? While I'm asking questions, you know how Gladys Berejiklian denied knowing anything about UWE? Well, you know it now. You wouldn't have gathered this from the hearing, but to give you a little background into the UWE, they were exporting bales of hay to China, and they were deliberately putting a bunch of shit hay into the mix. Then China was saying that this hay is shit, and they were sending it back, which would have cost a hell of a lot more than just burning the shit hay. When the hay came back, it looked like it was grass clippings instead of that nice, compact little satisfying green cylinders that you see when you drive to Coffs Harbour. I wonder why they were doing that. I wonder if that's going to come up in ICAC soon. And I wonder if anyone's going to be prosecuted for it. Judging from today's display that Gladys Berejiklian gets to walk out of that and still be Premier, probably not. But that's going to be interesting when that comes up. Hey, how about that? Horse food for thought. Anyway, like this video if you're excited for the next relay in Goth, which is, what other boyfriends has Gladys Berejiklian had? Please share and comment below. Comment.